would make sense, I would assume, based on the evidence alone, that if that knife sheath was there initially, it would have been under the body and it would have been covered in blood or some type of substance if it had been there the entire time.
Well, it wouldn't have been. It could not have been there the entire time because of the way things happened. I mean, there's this concept that keeps getting repeated by people who don't know anything about the case or even have seen the crime scene photos. Like the idea is it was dropped or it dropped and was left behind accidentally. No, this knife sheath, brand new, not used, not damaged, not injured, with just a few flecks of blood on it, was slid upside down between the victim's thigh and the bed sheet. And it had no other blood on it, just a few flecks on it, all right? But the bed sheet underneath it had a star field of blood spatter that was not damaged or interrupted or impacted by that knife sheath sliding over top of it. So that means that blood was dry because it didn't get that that star field blood was dry when that knife sheath got put in place. It didn't transfer onto the knife sheath. It didn't
Yeah.
smear it. It didn't move it. So it didn't get left behind. It didn't get accidentally left behind. It didn't get dropped. Somebody slid it into place underneath the victim's thigh.
What's up, guys? My name is Ted, and welcome to a new episode of my new YouTube podcast on the Idaho Forum. Well, those are some really powerful words from Dr. Turvey. So now we know that the brand new and unused sheath was placed next to Miss Mogan after the attacks. As we heard from Dr. Turvey, that sheath was not dropped or left behind accidentally. The sheath was slid under Ms. Mogan's thigh after the blood had dried. So again, it's important to make this distinction. It's the science and the data which is telling us, these are crime scene photographs which the public has never seen, that the blood on the sheet underneath the sheath, the pattern of blood was undisturbed. So that means it was slid in after the blood had dried, well after those attacks sometime that day. If this is the case, which I believe it to be, I believe that those crime scene photos will substantiate what Dr. Turvey is saying. This is absolutely catastrophic to the prosecution's 4 a.m. narrative. The entire basis of the prosecution's 4 a.m. theory is that Mr. Koberger was inside 1122 King that night, left that sheath behind with his DNA on it. So let's talk about the DNA real quickly, because there's only a few mechanisms by which that DNA could have arrived on that sheath or in the chain of custody. And the first, obviously, is direct transfer. That means he directly handled that sheath. And we know with this new planting intel, that throws that mechanism out the window entirely. The next would be some type of indirect transfer. For instance, let's say that day Mr. Koberger had shaken hands with the perpetrator or one of the perpetrators, who then handled that sheath and then indirectly transferred his skin cells onto the sheath itself. But we know from the investigation that the police were looking for any connection to the victims or anybody in the orbit of 1122 King, and they found absolutely nothing. So that makes that secondary or tertiary transfer highly, highly unlikely. But then again, we have to digress to the defense theory. Back in mid 2023, the defense was alleging that somehow Mr. Koberger's DNA profile, ended up in that chain of custody, and they were pointing the finger at law enforcement officials. So it really begs the question, how did Mr. Koberger's DNA profile end up in the chain of custody and on that item 1.1 forensic swab?